Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. If you're wondering about my voice, well, I'm still recovering a little bit. We just did advanced skills training this weekend. Congratulations to all the coaches who are a part of that. Some that are still doing a couple more things to finish up from the weekend, but it was an amazing weekend. And anytime I see coaches level up, and the excitement and passion and giftedness of the group this weekend, it was just really, really exciting. So, again, congrats to all of those who are new CPCs, certified professional coaches. We'll do our next one for those of you who have already knocked out your certification. We'll do the next one somewhere around like April or May of next year, and you'll have your opportunity. Let me say hello to a few of the people who are making their way in. Diane's joining us from rainy South Carolina. It's been super rainy out here in California over the past week or so. It's actually been pretty crazy. We don't see a whole lot of rain. So when you do, like, nobody knows what to do, and all the streets get flooded and all of those things. Charlotte is joining us from Dallas, Texas, and was talking to some friends from Dallas earlier today. Looks like I will be doing an event in Dallas in February of next year. Maybe I'll mention that when we get around to it. Hey, if you're just making it into the room and you've never joined us on one of these, here's what we always do. Make sure that you jump into the chat right now. Tell us where you're joining us from, what you're excited about, what you feel life and momentum on. We're not interested in just simply being talking heads over here. Mentor Mondays are always about engaging with you, answering your questions, and doing all of those things. Anel is joining us from San Diego. Welcome, Anel. Anybody else like to say hello to us before we jump in over here? Anybody else like to say hello? And I decided, as I was sitting around and I was thinking about what do we actually want to do, finishing up this year, finishing up what we were doing, and how could I actually help all of you the most as we're finishing up this year and coming into really a very busy and a very exciting January. Let me say hello to Jennifer from Montana. And as I was thinking about it, and obviously the last few weeks we were talking about mindset, belief systems, how to have a disciplined mind. What are the things that we really need to put in place as coaches in our mindset and in our belief systems to help us thrive? And that's what we really spent the last few weeks doing. Oh, there's Sandy from New Jersey. Took the training this weekend. It was phenomenal. Thank you, Sandy. Appreciate that. And so as we were thinking through finishing up this year, I was really thinking about what other things could we possibly give you to really give you some momentum coming into the next year. What are some of the things that you should be thinking about? All of those things. And I usually always, come up with something that is really what I would say is it's timely, it's on point, because January is an important month for coaches. It'll be your number 2 month out of the year. September is actually number 1, but number 2 is really close. It's January. And so you guys actually need to be you need to be a thermostat right now. Some of you are being thermometers and you're checking out. You got what everybody else is doing, getting ready for the holidays and everything else, and you're checking out when you should actually be busy right now. Like, people are actually paying attention and they're purchasing things, and they're also thinking about January because they're thinking about their new year and everything else. And so this is the moment when you should be speaking up. You should really be putting yourself out there, not just acting like an employee, which a lot of times employees aren't putting in their best work during this time of the year. They're thinking about when can they go on break and all of that other stuff. And so I'm really calling out to you to hold yourself up to that kind of a standard, because that's really what it's going to require. So here's what we are going to do. Let me do one really quick thing. I'm thinking that some people aren't getting our email. So I'm going to try to fix something really. And I'm going to try something really quick over here, like while all this is going on. And I'm going to remove some things here, and we're going to see if we can make sure. I think some our emails have been going to spam today. So we're going to do the best that we can to make sure that people get our emails so they don't miss this. So what are we talking about tonight? Well, as I was thinking about how we were going to finish up this year, I realized that many of you have come to know us over the past year. Maybe you haven't been around for very long. And so there's a lot of topics and there's a lot of things. If you went back in time on our YouTube, if you went back in time on some of the articles that I've written over the years, that maybe some of you, if you haven't gone back in time, you haven't learned some of the things, and you haven't gotten a lot of the things that we have kind of given away and inspired and helped people with along the way. One of those things that we're always really passionate about is that we're always passionate about giving you tools and helping you with your business and growing and developing it and thriving on that end. And so, not that long ago, we had one of our coaches, her name is Penny Kostaras, come in and do an interview with me. And it's been a little while, but Penny has been one of those inspiring people in and around my life, and definitely in and around the life of Life Coach Training Institute, because when she came in, she had a great background in academics, but she was figuring out, how can I leverage what I was doing in a previous career that I'm still passionate about and leverage it towards becoming a coach. And since then, she is absolutely crushing it. She's tripled her income. She's also added and launched a couple of other components of her business. And we were in a conversation around, how do you discover your niche, and how do you actually find your niche and nurture a relationship with them to convert them into becoming clients. And one of the amazing things that was part of her story is being sensitive to what the needs of her ideal client was, enabled her to send one email out to a small list of only 200 people. Because a lot of times people are like, you need to reach thousands of people. You don't. You need people who are actually engaged and want what you offer. And she sent one email out to 200 people and made $26,000 off of one email. And so I was able to bring her in. Of course, she's still in a relationship with us. I think she was with us this past weekend for advanced skills training. But who better than to talk about these things as somebody who has walked where many of you have walked, trying to figure this thing out, go and get trained and certified and start from scratch to build something. I want you to hear from someone who has. And so we're going to jump into that even right now. And I'll be back in a minute to just close it out with you. Cool? Let me say this on the front end and why she is a worthy person to listen to. She launched her coaching practice just a few years ago. She's already tripled her income, but that's not just the reason why I would say to listen. Obviously we want to have people who have results, who are being successful as coaches. That's one of the reasons why I bring these people, is that you need to know is that they're successful as coaches and they're successful as business people. But Penny's a person that when you get to know her and know her story, one of the things that's true, because everybody's got stories and they get to be all flashy and exciting. And Penny is all of that. She's brilliant. She's really smart. She's a lot of fun, all of those things. But you're going to walk away and you're going to say, Penny's earned everything that she's got. And that's one of the things that I love about her, is her story is inspirational, and her work ethic and all of those things. You'll get to know her. So I'm going to bring Penny in with me right now, and she'll be in just a couple of seconds. Penny, how's it going?
It's going great. Thanks, Paul. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We're so honored that you would I know you're really busy in your own business, and being able to, that's one of the reasons why we had to change the time from what our Mentor Monday usually is, because Penny's actually really busy as a coach. And so Penny, tell our audience who doesn't know you a little bit about yourself and your background before you came into coaching.
Sure. Well, thank you all for being here. My name is Penny Kostaras, and I'm an academic and life skills coach. Back in the day, I started out not really knowing what to do. I was kind of flailing. I never really had a direction. I always knew that I was a person who liked to work and worked hard, but I didn't have a set path in life. I didn't necessarily have, parents who laid the path for me. My parents were immigrants to this country, and not, yay, American dream immigrants. It was more like really tough, struggled, poverty level sort of difficulties. And so I never really knew what to do. I never really had a clear path set, but I knew I was good at school, and I knew that I wanted to work hard. So I ended up going to college, getting a great education, and finding my way to California, and just trying things out. I'm always working. I'm always trying things out. And in the end, I realized that working for myself was the best. And a common thread throughout my life was always that I was able to help people. I was able to listen really well and help them not only discover what works for them, but just kind of get in touch with their inner strength and their inner power and empower them to be themselves and find their way. People would joke when I was younger, they would call me like little Oprah or Dr. Phil. The adults, and they were making fun of me. They thought I was nuts, like a little 10-year-old with wisdom, right? But it's just always been a thread in my life. I've always seen the bigger picture. I've always, seen the beauty and the perfection in every person. And it is my calling to bring that out in them. So even though I was flailing and not really sure of a straight path, I'm glad because it led me to where I am today. And you don't know, nothing's better than knowing what you want to do when you know what you don't want to do, right? So sometimes, like Paul says all the time, pain indicates change, right? Pain is a greater motivator than comfort and complacency. So I would always try something, it would bother me. Try something, bother me. Not a fit, not a fit, not a fit. And then I realized, I get to create this. I get to do what I want and make it fit me and not try to make myself fit in other people's molds. So that's a really long story short.
No, it was great. Talk about that crazy part of your story where you were working and having to wear steel toe boots and all of this other stuff to end up opening up the door for an opportunity for yourself.
Oh yeah, I grew up in New England in rural Connecticut, and I had to work in the summers. I had to make money. No one was handing me any money ever. So I got to school. When I got to college, I didn't necessarily want to be there. It wasn't my first, second, third, or fourth choice. But this college, which was amazing, by the way, gave me a great education. They gave me an amazing scholarship. So I ended up going there, but I wasn't necessarily happy to be going there. So the first thing I said when I stepped on campus was, I have to get out of here. I'm going to take my junior year abroad. So the only place to go was Spain because, again, I've never been a person with a plan. There was no room for me in Italian class, so I had to take Spanish, even though I quit Spanish in high school. So I said, all right, if I'm going to take Spanish, I'm going to go to Spain. So that summer before I went to Spain, I worked in a factory that was sulfur-based products. There's a little, newsflash, there's a little device in your gas tank. It's a float that measures how much gas you have. So at this factory, we would make those. I would cut them with a bandsaw with my steel toe boots and my glasses on, and I would turn them in this sulfuric machine that would bake them and cake them so that they could be put in the engine, in the tank parts. And I worked second shift. I was like trains passing in the night with my best friends who worked or didn't work during the day. I didn't see anybody, and I made a ton of money that summer so I could go to Spain. I ended up going, learning Spanish, becoming fluent in Spanish, coming back for my senior year. And after that, I drove cross country to California because I wanted to get out of town. So yeah, the theme also is Penny always goes. I go to find new opportunities, but it really works. And you have to do those dirty jobs too. I mean, like I said, you have to do everything to see what you don't want. And that helps guide you toward where you do want to be, what you do want to, who you do want to work with. I mean, it's all experience. And as life coaches, the more experience we have in life, the better we are in serving the people that we work with. Because if you're going to elicit a response in a person, if you're going to help them, step into their greatness and become empowered, I think it's your job to be empowered too. We have to live that in ourselves. We have to be not only our best selves, but a beacon for what is possible in our clients. So I got a lot of fun stories and a lot of failures, and that's what makes it work.
So let me ask you this.
You gotta do it. Oh, my jewelry was tarnished too. Like sulfur ruined silver. All of my jewelry was tarnished. Like everything was ruined, you guys. It was a great memory.
So I'm going to take a slight detour only because you were talking about your upbringing. My upbringing, I was first generation. Now my mom's family, they were the whites. They were in Kentucky and Tennessee, but my dad's family immigrated from Palestine. And so I was first generation born in, of all places, in Tennessee, which was interesting. But then we lived for a great while in Missouri, and it was a little agricultural farming town. over 30% of the city was below the poverty line. My family was in that as well. I think my dad, when he got his full salary, he was making $190 a week. And my mom went and took an hourly job at Walmart so that we could get health insurance, trying to just make ends meet and everything else. But in a small town, I did learn the value of real hard work, being around some people who they were some of the hardest working and dearest people. But I would also say that that in a lot of the people that I was around, there wasn't a real vision past what, like, I know you left and you're like, hey, I'm out of here. I'm going to Spain. You worked really hard, went there. Then you were like all the way out to California. Tell me, how is your thought process about yourself? How did it evolve? Because I'm sure that you took great values, but then you're also, when you grow up, I know for me, there's a lot of trauma involved that I kind of experienced later, really put me in the box on what I thought that I was worth, or what I thought was actually possible and everything else. Did your thinking evolve with that? And what's that really meant for your coaching career and coaching business?
Yeah, I definitely think it's evolved because I definitely grew up much like you. There was no vision. Like the greatest person in our town was an insurance salesman, and I didn't even know the path to get there, or an attorney maybe. But what I knew to be true was that I could feel in myself that there was something bigger. Like the room couldn't contain me, essentially. The town couldn't contain me. Even though I didn't know what that meant or what that looked like, I just felt this idea. I felt this need to break away. And that's hard to do when you're not getting the message that you're worth something and you should go be doing that. I was really dumb for thinking that I could leave. My parents thought I'd be back in a month. I mean, they were really good at saying that I was great, but they didn't know what that meant necessarily, because everything I did was the first time they had seen it. So it was already always really foreign, always uncomfortable. I was kind of iconoclastic in a lot of ways because they just knew life as they knew life, and I wanted something completely different. So that might make me selfish or ungrateful, or there's a whole lot of negative that comes along with breaking away from what the family knows to be true as well. So I just I had to do a lot of work in the self-worth department. And your programs have been super helpful too, Paul. I mean, the work that we do in Life Coach Training Institute about, finding your inner worth and finding your voice, and even being able to price yourself at your value and not undervaluing yourself. I had to do that work. If we say my profits have increased threefold in the last years, it's because I've had to do the work. I have to say, okay, wait, I'm worth this, because there's a lot of that underlying feeling that I don't know if it ever goes away. I'm always kind of negotiating with myself, like, can I do this? Yes, I can do this. I always kind of second guess and pull back, but that also keeps me humble and not ever complacent or thinking that I'm better than anyone else, because I know that I'm not, because everything great comes from work. But that worthiness, that idea that you don't have to be what you've seen, you don't have to see it to do it, you can dream it, you can become it, has been definitely my life's work in the past 3 years, and it's working out really well. And because I've gone through it and I can do it, I can also help elicit that in other people and help them break past their limiting beliefs as well, because we're programmed to think one way, but hey, we can step off the stage at any time. We don't have to dance the dance. We can do whatever it is we dream in our hearts. So yeah, the self-worth has been huge for me, huge.
That's awesome. Talk about this just for a second, and we'll get to niching, because I here's one of the things that I see some people saying changing paradigms, collapse. I see, yeah, just like Penny, questioning myself. That's awesome. One of the things, and I don't know what your experience of this has been, I hear a lot of people trying to make this breakthrough, coming from whatever they came from. And here's what I can say with giving giving parents in general the benefit of the doubt that parents
Yeah,
love us and they want the best for us. But
thousand
it doesn't
percent.
mean that they always know what the best is for us. Because I mean, I've had conversations with my own dad. I'm like, Dad, this is your seed. You thought it was an apple seed, but it ended up being a watermelon. But it's still, and it's funny because I know sometimes even my parents never could really get their hands wrapped around who I was. And because of
Mhm.
that, didn't really know how to support it or to speak into it or to be a buzz killer sometimes. What was your experience with trying to come up with what was your support structure like when you're making these big leaps and changes, and especially going crazy to start your own business? What was your support structure, or did you have to kind of create it? How did you do it?
Yeah, I would say I had to create it because one thing about my parents is that they're wonderful and they did a great job supporting me the best they could. Like my mom is very great at rah rah, like yay, go, great job. Even though I don't understand this, I'm going to say you're doing great at it, you know. And then my dad's like, okay, it's just not really what I needed necessarily, but they did the best they could. So I realized early on that I had to create that system. I had to rope in mentors and people that could help me and follow their lead. And I love taking on, like women as my surrogate moms. They're strong at one thing, strong at I've got women in my life who are really strong at business, are really my mentors and my idols for family. I just latch onto them and I take from them what I can because there's so much to learn from them.
Yeah.
And so I create that circle around me, that circle of strength and trust, so that I can look to them and be like them. Because it's hard to do life doing the opposite of what your parents showed you in certain respects. You know what I mean? Because there
Yeah.
is no roadmap. So a lot of it you have to imagine, but it's a lot easier when you see someone doing it. So my husband too, I mean, he's been an amazing rock for me. He's just very business savvy and very I don't know, he's got this calm about him that has helped me immensely in my journey as well. So I think picking and choosing the people around you that you know are not only successful but are really strong role models for you to model your life after, I think is important if you don't necessarily have those systems in place to start out with. Just because you don't start out with them doesn't mean they're unavailable. You have to go out and seek them and find them, and there are people willing to help you. Did I answer the question, Paul?
Coming back now.
Good.
I got called offset for just a second,
Oh,
so
no problem.
apologize for that. That's super helpful. So let's get back to niche, because that's what a lot of people are thinking about. But I felt like those important parts that, again, I hear those stories a lot. So super important for people to really grasp that we've all had a journey into this, that the fear part, the not part, all of the programs that unfortunately some people who were well-meaning people, but sometimes they spoke limiting things over us. We've all experienced them, and so I have one of my mentors always talks about thinking. He's like, if your thinking can't get you to where you go, then you can just simply have another thought. And I think it's really hard for a lot of people to believe that your thinking has gotten you to where you've gotten so far, but to get to the next place, then you're going to have some new thinking, and probably creating some relationships to kind of like to stand alongside you as you're doing those things. So I think that's really important parts of your story. So in the niching side, tell me what your process has been. So you got your coaching practice up.
Mhm.
What was your process in actually discovering your niche? Did your background, of course, you have a background, an academic background and everything else. Did your background, influence or inform, or anything in your background has influenced or informed how you would choose your niche?
Yeah, definitely. First, I loved being a student when I was younger. That's where I got a real sense of control and accomplishment. And I'm naturally good at school, I would say. And then I'm not so naturally good at school. I mess a lot of things up, terrible with time management, but I'm good at the content stuff. So I did well in school, and then as I was substitute teaching, And I would always find myself kind of at the front of the class talking about life stuff with the kids instead of just, teaching them the concepts. And I would always go off page and teach my students Greek because I know Greek, just like teaching them other, like just always kind of doing my own thing. And then I was working with Weight Watchers, and I was a weight loss coach for them. So, that weight loss is just like life coaching, right? Getting the client to commit to what they want to achieve and the steps that they need to get there, and them speaking that so they'll actually do it rather than you telling them what to do. So as I was building my coaching practice, I took the elements of what I loved from working with students and what I loved from my experience with Weight Watchers, but also what I learned in the program to create programs that are coaching centered, but also around academics, because I saw students as the ideal life coach candidates because they're in this world called school, and there's a lot of room to feel empowered in school. And I think school doesn't necessarily give kids the tools to be empowered. So I wanted to bring in those life coaching tools to them so that they could really feel great about the efforts that they're putting in, but also not waste those 12 years in school. Because how are you going to be a kid who struggles in their 8 to 12 years of school, and then suddenly you're an adult like, I'm going to conquer the world now? If you felt bad in your school experience, you're not, right? So I wanted to bring in these feelings of empowerment, motivation, accomplishment into their regular school life so that they can step out into the world with these strong foundations already.
That's cool.
I merged it.
One of the things that you said, so if I go back in time and you're kind of like, you're like, hey, as I've gone through this process, I'm definitely going to coach young people, or I'm going to coach students. That's what you kind of decided pretty early on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I decided that because I had adult clients too, and I love working with adults. But there's something about students that is just really, it just really lights me up. I love working with youth. They're so energetic and they're quick to change, and I don't know, it's just really a lot of fun for me. I coach adults, but not as much as students, and I feel like that's just where I was led, because they say, be who you needed when you were younger. And I needed a me when I was younger. So I was really great at school, but I needed that extra part, that life part, that get your stuff together, Penny. Here's what you're missing. And because I didn't have that, I created that for my younger self, for my inner self, but also to share with youth now so that they can feel great about themselves and not have to wait, wait till they're adults and do all the trials and tribulations and weird jobs like me. They can just start out with it.
So if somebody was following you on your journey and they were watching, because it's like some people are like, well, how did you know how you were going to choose this group of people? What's 3 things that you would recommend to like a new coach that's kind of like, I'm wrestling between a couple of different possibilities, and I just don't feel like I've been able to commit. What's maybe 3 keys that you found that's like, hey, here's how you actually find your thing and you find your people?
I would say the first thing is what makes you fall asleep at night without a thought in your mind. Like when I hit the pillow at night, I'm not worried about anything. I know that the group I'm working with is the right group because they give me more energy. I feel I can work all day, literally, because I feel energized by them, and they just give me more life rather than draining the life out of me. So I would say if anything's trembling inside of you when you think about who to work with, if there's like that trepidation or that trembling or that insecurity or worry, it's probably not the best niche to pick, right? You want your niche to be a natural flow and a natural extension of who you are. I would say that's first and foremost. Second, I would say, where is there a need? I found a need in students because I started out, substitute teaching, like I said, and then when I stopped a long-term sub assignment being my student's math teacher. And they said, Ms. Kostaras, but we still need you. We want to see you. And I said, all right, come to my house and we'll do tutoring. But there was that feeling of like having to be with them. They missed me and I missed them. And I really wanted to keep that connection. And yeah, could I have chosen to just work with adults only? Sure. But students needed me, and I could tell. And I've worked with adults, and adults are really good at talking themselves out of not needing you. But students are not good at that, right? They understand when they have someone who's helping them. They feel great immediately, and they let you know because they don't BS. Kids don't BS. They can tell a fake. They can spot a fake, right? So I could tell that the impact I was having on them was really profound, not only on them, but their parents. I was helping the family system in general. So that's what helped me stick with it. And by the way, just because I work with students doesn't mean that I don't work with their parents. I send a weekly email to parents, and some of my students are on that list too. And the life coaching strategies I talk about with my students, I extend the email to parents and I offer them to think about it in their own lives. So I'm not strictly coaching students. I bring the parents into the conversation too, so they can take it with them into the home and work on the topic of the week and reflect in their own lives, where could they be more motivated? Or, if I do a wheel of life, let's say with my students, I offer it up to the parents too to consider, because I think everybody can improve from the work and everyone can benefit from it. So
that's great. So in your keys, one of them that you mentioned was passion. The people who give you juice are a great indicator for people that you could possibly work with. What's a couple of other things, or in case I missed anything, what are a couple of other things that you're like, hey, here's some real keys to help you land who that person's supposed to be?
Totally. Where's the juice? And then I said, where's the need, right? I could tell students needed me because there's always a need. If you're picking a niche, like our friend last week, helping guys date, like that's a need, he felt that in his own life and he fulfilled that need. Same thing with me. I saw that students needed this and I served it. And I would also say, okay, what's another thing to help you pick your niche? I would say it's okay to try a few too. Like if you want to experiment and try them out and see what fits, there's absolutely everything right with that as well. Maybe you don't know your niche until, again, the other things that you try don't necessarily fit. And I would say don't be afraid to experiment either. But I think that the further you drill down in your niche, the more of an expert and the more sought after you'll become as well. You don't need to worry about going global. I mean, at first, try some things out if you're trying to pick, between 3 niches. But then once you start feeling that rhythm and the flow with one, really nail it down. And your client will produce the verbiage. They'll produce the words that you can latch onto, that you can use in your marketing and in your emails and in your Instagram posts to use the same words that they use so that you call to them, literally call to them on Facebook and through the universe so that they can find you.
So let me ask you 2 questions about what you just said. One is, obviously you're niching down after you've begun. Did you find that things changed after you first started working with those people? That maybe you adjusted your niche, or because what I find is a lot of people are like, well, until everything's perfect and until I fully know, I can't start. How certain were you when you started, and then what adjustments did you have to make after you started?
Oh, I'm constantly adjusting. And the thing about having a niche is once you find it, there is a whole universe within that niche that you can explore. So, for example, I started out as a math tutor. Just let's call me an algebra tutor for, pre-algebra, algebra, geometry. And then I realized that younger kids needed me. And then I realized older kids needed me. And then I was helping the older kids with their college applications and their personal essays. And that personal essay is all about life coaching. You're drawing out the story within the student, and they're realizing inner truths that they never had to stop and think about before. So then I realized that, wow, okay, my top student is struggling with organization and time management. Oh, everybody else is too. All right, we need to take care of that. So I built a whole like online course for time management, organization, and study skills. Oh, wait, online isn't enough. We need to meet once a week. So then I built a program to meet once a week live and talk about, plan for the week ahead, and also talk about a topic relevant to life, to student life, and to their overall lives. So then I built that program. So it's always, I find that when you're in your niche, you're guided by the needs of your clients. So everything that I'm creating, it's with their needs in mind. I constantly am asking myself, how can I serve them? How can I help them fix this for themselves? How can I guide them? And like I said, within that universe of your niche, there are untold stories, compartments, corners that you can peek around and continue to dig deep, deep, deep into them. And there's no stopping me, right? I'm just like, my husband will say, like, why is it that every time you have an idea, you have to execute it? Can't you just relax? But it's because I know that it's valuable and I want to test it out and I want to try it. And, but it's always of service to the client. And yeah, my clients are students, but they're also parents, right? I see myself as doing really sacred work, helping the family, come together and not be stressed about school and life. I mean, it really matters. So, but yeah, when you drill down, there's so much to discover within that drill down.
How are you keeping a pulse? We were talking about email a little bit earlier.
Mm-hmm.
How are you keeping a pulse on what the needs are? And how are you staying really engaged? Obviously, for the clients that you have a program. I'll let you talk about that in just a second, and you coach them weekly or whatever. But obviously, you've got people who have been interested in what you do, and how are you engaging? How are you connecting with those people? And how are you getting a pulse on what you think the next need is?
Well, I engage via my email list. And part of me in also knowing and staying on the pulse is also what I see. So I have this observation part that I do on my own, and I try to see trends across students and families, but I also will outright ask them. So in my emails, for example, I send a weekly email and I talk about a topic relevant to student life, and I also add in there any programs or workshops that I have going on. But at the end, I'll always ask them a question like, how are you going to incorporate X that I talked about today in your life? I'd love to hear from you. Write back and let me know. And they'll write back and let me know. And within that, if a mom or a dad is writing back to me, they'll say, oh, I'm having a really hard time with X. And that's what allows me to understand a little deeper. Sometimes I'll send them surveys too. I've done that, just a quick little survey like, hey, what are your main struggles? And it could be open-ended, or I have them check a few things off. And that's where I know to speak to those topics. And I poll the students in the same way because, for example, in my Sunday meetings, I'm asking questions constantly, just like you learn how to do in your life coach program. The questions, right, allow them to come up with their answers. So it's from there. And then I see across the board the trend too. For example, I had to be really nimble whenever all the students went home to learn in these last 3 months, right? That was just a major shockwave throughout everybody's life. And I saw it coming and I said, uh-oh, public schools are not going to be ready for this. I've been teaching online for 2 years, but they have not. And with all the bureaucracy and all the people involved in school, I knew they would be slow to get up and running. So I created my own little morning school. And within a day, I had a structure, I had an outline of my classes, I had the payment plan, and I was able to send that email, and 50 kids signed up. And I had my classes going before the schools even knew how to turn on Zoom. We were up and running by Wednesday of that first week in shelter in place. And I had everyone signed up because I knew it would be an issue. So I'm constantly monitoring, but I'm also checking in as well via email because you don't want to lose those people you have contact with, right? Yeah. You become, as a coach, you become someone that they know, like, and trust. So when you can keep that, that's one thing I really want all of you as new coaches to understand is that because someone works with you and then maybe decide, okay, I'm good, let's pause for a little bit, they don't have to completely leave you. Keep them keep them on an email list, keep communicating with them, because when you're top of mind, when you're in front of them in their inbox, and the inbox is a very intimate space. Well, you can scroll through social media super easily, but when you're in someone's inbox, you occupy really prime real estate that they pay more attention to generally than social media. So my email list has allowed me to become even more of a go-to person and an expert for the families that I serve, because they know that they're going to hear from me, and they know I'm going to deliver value. And that's the whole point. So they can count on me, and they can be honest, and they can write back and say, here's what I'm struggling with, or here's what I'm working on. Thanks for asking. So we build that connection and rapport through that means of email as well, which I find has really changed the game for me. I just started that email list about a year ago, and I've been working for 14 years. I said, let me just communicate regularly, and it's made a huge difference.
That's cool. And so when everything, because we were just having a quick chat about this before we came on, you said you sent you said something about you had a small email list, you sent 3 emails. What tell that story.
Yeah, so I was, again, students learning from home did not work so well. For those of you with kids at home, you've known it. I have 2 kids of my own in 4th grade and in 2nd grade, and it was rough, even for us, like the cobbler's kids have no shoes, like Penny's kids do not want to learn from Penny either. But, so I knew parents would be struggling as well. So I started my little morning classes for kindergarten, 1st grade through 8th grade. And then I saw a need in math too, so I opened up some Algebra 1 prep classes to get ready for next fall. And let's call it 3 emails in 3 email successions, right? Telling everybody about the morning programs and my algebra programs. I made almost $25,000.
Okay, everybody, $25,000. But how big is your email list?
In the 300s. It's not even that big.
So this isn't crazy. I try to tell, there's 2 things that I have tried to stress over the last few months since we've been in this global pause. One was, if you will see the opportunity and not freak out like everybody else is doing, there is an opportunity, there's money to be made, there is a need. There's something that everybody's going to pay attention to that they weren't aware of before. And if you can be that person to step up. But some coaches were kind of like, well, I don't think anybody wants to coach right now. No, like that's crazy. Like that's really crazy. Like, and you don't have to have big email lists. What Penny's talking about is because she's nurtured and has started just like communicating with people, asking the questions, how can I serve you, and giving people things of value. And when the time was right, which is what this last few months has been, where they really needed someone, the trust and rapport has already been built. This is not like, oh, I sent 3 emails and like a ridiculous story. What we're talking about here is that Penny's done the work of relationship and has made a connection. You don't need an email list of 5,000 people to make 25 grand. If you're doing the work of relationship, these are the keys that Penny's sharing with all of you that I try to, sometimes you just need a perfect world example so that you can say this stuff actually works. Nurture relationship, find out what people need, serve the need, and when the time is right, because you're looking for a perfect moment for someone to come into a coaching relationship. There has to be a pain threshold where there's enough trust in the relationship, but there's got to be enough want to on the person to say, I need this now and I'm ready. And it's hard to say when that's going to happen. It might be a week away, but it might be months down the road. And it's just really hard to say. And what Penny's done in this, it's brilliant. But this is like, if you can get stuff from this today, it's the simplicity of it, that it's all about relationship. I had an email this morning from someone who said, when is it appropriate to start being vulnerable and being open about our life while at the same time not trying to mentor people? And I'm like, well, when I saw the email, it was like, well, we can't really tell you when the appropriate time, because it's about relationship. And so if you're building a relationship and there's openness that's coming, the dynamic of the relationship for some people, if you can into it, you can be sensitive, if you can listen and ask questions, then you'll be right there at the right space at the right time, because it really is about relationships. So, and that's so encouraging, hopefully for everybody who's listening, that it's like, relationships not rocket science. In some ways it can be harder if you don't want to listen. If you don't want to actually engage with people, that can make your business really hard. But if you'll actually listen and not manipulate people, just listen to what they need, and you build something around what they're telling you, and that's how you actually make your adjustments. You don't have to be 100% certain when you start. That's the other part of it that I'm hoping that everybody's listening. You're probably never going to get to 100% certainty, and you're always going to be making adjustments. And so these are things that hopefully you guys are learning as you're listening. There was a question that I saw here. Stephanie says, what if you are finding your audience is hard to define? It's more generalistic, aka women feeling stuck. What would you say, Penny?
Then I would say feeling stuck where? It's just like if you're trying to write something, and if you get a little bit of writer's block, take what you have written down and say, what do I mean by what I have written down already? So women feeling stuck, what do I mean by feeling stuck? In their personal life, in their careers, in their families, with their growth, with their potential. Start brainstorming where they could possibly be stuck. And then find some women, like your ideal women or women that you know in your category or age range of people, and ask them, hey, how you doing? How are things? Are you feeling stuck in any places? And let them produce the words that will help you to pare down and niche down into where you want to be. Because women can feel stuck in everything. In a 24-hour period, I'm stuck in 100 different places. So where is it that you feel compelled to help women unstick themselves? Do you have, a strong feeling about helping them get on track with relationships, with career, with family, whatever it might be? Because as women, we get stuck a lot, but if you can be that person that identifies where we might be stuck and then takes and just kind of groups or categorizes those words into bigger groups, you can then start speaking the language and drawing potential people who will resonate with that message. Hopefully that helps, but I feel like when you're general, like feeling stuck, try to define what you mean by that first, and then see if you get some hits.
That's genius. Yeah, that was perfect. Let's talk about Wise Student really quick.
Okay.
Tell people how you've kind of developed this program and kind of, not that you have to give your trade secrets away, because you're killing it. But how have you developed this program? Obviously, it's targeted at young people, but at the same time, your parents, because how have you? What's the program look like? And what's it like to actually coach youth? Because I get that question a lot of like, can you coach young people? And obviously you're doing it. So tell us a little bit about that.
I started Wise Student because I felt like students really needed to tap into their inner wisdom. I felt like they were going through school sort of, with eyes at half mast, just going through the motions, not really excited or engaged. So I wanted to give them the tools, the tips, the strategies to help them kind of perk up around their student life, but also realize that the student life is their life, right? Your first job, let's say, is being a student. So you really get to lay the foundation and decide how you're going to show up in the world based on how you show up in school. You don't have to be a straight A student. You don't have to have all the answers, but you can engage in certain processes and habits that make you more effective, more productive, and feel better about yourself and more confident. So that's what I wanted. I wanted to produce these little soldiers of confidence and empowerments to push them out into the world as adults to help this next generation do better than we're doing and better than the people before us, right? I think that's our job, just to kind of help everyone step into their greatness and be the best possible selves they can be. And I saw that school was the major like umbrella that all these young people were housed under. I said, wait, how can I make you feel great about school and therefore life? So that's where Wise Student started.
In the structure of the business, you're doing this all virtually. You're doing this with an online program. What's that kind of look like?
I have students that I see one-on-one or one-to-many, 1 to 2. I do small groups online or classes online. It's a little bit of everything, in person and online. Because I saw that, you were asking earlier, how do you see things? And I saw that online learning was going to be the new wave. And I also saw that time was running out for me. There's only so much one-on-one time we have. We have a finite amount of hours in our lives. So I had to say, okay, how can I multiply myself without losing myself? And that meant going online and having more of a one-to-many in classes. But I feel like when I say students were just kind of going through school and going through the motions, I mean, how many people do you know, and maybe yourselves, felt unsatisfied with how you performed in school, and like how you did in school doesn't necessarily relate to how you are as an adult? I've seen too many students decide how they are based on their school performance. Make decisions about, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at that, I'll never be a this, I'll never be a that. And it's simply not true. With work and with the proper skills and practicing the study habits and the techniques, you can be great at anything. You can learn anything, right? So that's where I saw that students really needed that mindset work. That work that we do as life coaches, they needed that as well, because you can't go in and have this terrible mindset about how you perform as a student and then go out and crush life. They're completely related.
Yeah.
So if you feel like you're empowered in your school years and your youth, you'll also feel empowered as an adult to be and create whatever it is that you want.
That's awesome. What's next for you in your coaching practice? Is there any new things that are opening up, or what's that look like maybe for the next year or whatever? What are you working on?
What I'm working on now is I'm working on another branch where I'm going to teach other professionals, other educators, other tutors, college coaches, academic coaches. I'm going to teach them to do what I do. I'm going to share my programs with them. I'm going to share, the business model and how it's worked for me, and I'm going to help them build their own business. So that's a whole other branch. So I'm going to become a business coach, right? If I'm an academic coach, life coach, success coach, now I'll be a business coach to them too. And, helping them get their business and their life off the ground. Because when you can find something that helps you feel fulfilled and you know that you're of service to other people, I go all day. I never stop. And like I said, I have 2 kids. I have a family. I have stuff to do, but I'm still always energized and ignited by the work that I do. And like I said, there's only one me. We have finite hours, but I know that there are other people who could do my job, maybe even better, and touch the lives of students and families in their own right. And I want to give them the skills and the opportunity to do that too, to not only make a great life for themselves and a business where they feel in control and they can, decide the course of their life, their earnings, never have a ceiling, and just, blow it out of the water, their wildest dreams, but also to affect such change and growth and empowerment in the lives that they touch. So that's what I'm doing next.
That's awesome. I think that's killer. Shekinah says, Penny, this is excellent. You've clarified a lot of my confused thoughts. That's awesome.
Thanks, Shekinah. I'm glad.
How long did it take for you to feel your initial efforts led to a return on investment?
I think that's a great question. And it depends on what your return on investment is. For me, money doesn't guide me. I was always doing what I enjoyed and letting that path follow. I would follow that path so that the money came after. And it's just an aftershock of the joy I feel from what I do. So how long for you to feel your initial efforts led to ROI? I'm always getting a return on my investment no matter what. I always feel confident about what I'm doing because my purpose is always to serve my clients and my audience. that purpose leads to my fulfillment no matter what.
Wow.
Money comes after the joy comes. It'll be a natural result, right? It's the natural consequence of doing good work and loving what you do. You have to love it first, then you can do it well, and then you'll get that physical ROI, the money. And I was always making money. I was always charging and making money. That business transaction is always in place. But what makes it feel better is that I don't do what I do for the money. I do it for my own sense of helpfulness and self-worth. It's healing to me, my younger self. I'm being the person that I needed when I was younger, but it also brings me extreme joy to help people find that inner strength to empower themselves and live their best lives and step into their greatness. So I would say not long to get my ROI physically because I was always charging and getting, charging and getting. And you can do that too. You charge the client, they give you the money. But to feel that satisfaction that allows you to go and do and produce and create and reach out and touch your audience, I've always led with that first. And that's what allows me to continue to deliver value and be in touch with the people that I can serve.
Yeah. That's so powerful. Wow, that was gold. Like if people just tuned in, they only got that. That was such gold. That can absolutely change your life. That right there. That was really good. Penny, it was an amazing time. Thank you so much for like being willing to share not only your time but your passion. I mean, it's kind of like, I remember the very first time that I just watched you on like a brief, like little bitty video. I told you, and I don't know if you remember it, but I remember when I saw it and I'm like, this is gold and you're going to crush it. Like I could just see it like instantly. And so it's fun watching, a couple of years later, watching you scratching the surface. I wouldn't say that you've come to fulfillment yet. Obviously, when you're like talking about some of the new things that you are like, hey, what you've actually developed is a signature program and essentially a business that someone else with your background could actually do if you've done all of the work. And I mean, it's incredible really where you can go with it. And so I'm excited in seeing that for you. Unmistakable passion. There's just no doubt in who you are, the authenticity of who you are, the genuineness, all of those things shine through. So there's no doubt that if that you are going to be successful and that you are successful. And so I want you to know that we appreciate you pouring into the people who are listening and everything else. I think that people got a lot more than what they were expecting during this time today. So thanks a bunch.
Thank you, Paul. It was a pleasure being on, and thank you for your incredible program too. I've learned so much from you. So you guys, Paul has me on, but I've been following him for years now, and a lot of the things that we were talking about earlier, like inner work and the transformation inside of you and feeling that self-worth, I relate to Paul on so many levels, his story when he was younger and how he became successful and broke through. So Paul, thank you, because I've learned so much from you in these past years that we've been working together, and I trust you as a mentor and a confidant, and I appreciate you so much. So thank you.
Wow, that means a ton. Thank you so much for that. Woo, that was fire, wasn't it? Wasn't that so good? Thank you guys so much for joining us for that. That was amazing. Let me pay the bills really quick before we get out of here. Um, for those of you who have not gotten trained and certified as a coach, or maybe you've gotten trained and certified as a coach, but you know what? You've had a failure or launch. You haven't gotten your business out there. You struggled to put yourself out there. You struggled to discover your niche. Whatever the barrier is, we've designed our Jumpstart program to help coaches confront those things. If how to is part of your barrier, if lack of support is part of your barrier, that's why we've launched this program. Jumpstart not only includes the life coach certification course and boot camp, but it also includes our business development roadmap. Inside of our life coach certification course, which is included in Jumpstart, is live training every Tuesday. No, we are not just a computer school, not just an online school where you can do things self-paced, because you could do that. But on Tuesday nights, we have rolling sessions that is our life coach certification course, and we bring you through the 7 core modules of that, at the same time that it is live, we also have live Q&As at the end of those. What we've designed between our life coach certification course and our Jumpstart program is the opportunity for you to connect with other like-minded coaches, people who are passionate, people who get it, who get you, who understand. In some cases, they were only like a month or two behind, a month or two ahead of you, or maybe a year ahead of you, but they remember exactly where it was and what it feels like to start. And you feel like you don't know anything and you don't know how to move forward. That's why we've designed these programs to not only teach you, because I will say this, I remember going and getting trained and certified as a coach, had no support, had no clue of how to start a business. And I would have loved to have been around people who championed me, who celebrated with me to help me move forward. So the Life Coach Certification course has live rolling sessions every Wednesday, starts at 5 o'clock Pacific time, that's 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern time. And we have live coaching demos so you can role play with other people and you can get your questions asked every week in that. We also, if you join the Jumpstart program, you get access to the live coaching bootcamp. The next one's going to be January 13th through the 15th. And this is for people who want to just knock out all of your training and certification in the weekend. It's a very momentum building weekend where you meet a lot of people, a lot of like-minded people. And again, the acceleration in that program, again, allows you to knock your certification out very quickly so that you can get started. But when you're in the Jumpstart program, what I want you to know is that you get access to all of these programs for the $97 a month, including Brand Camp. For those of you who have never designed a website before, never done any kind of marketing messaging that might be frightening for you to start out, what we did is we put together a training. It's 13 hours total where we walk you through everything. How do you discover your niche? How do you design a website? How do you write a web page? How do you write an email? How do you create an email marketing list? Like everything is actually included in here. We bring you from scratch all the way up to search engine optimization. Like how can people find you using a Google search or whatever? We show you all of these things inside of Brand Camp. We also have a new course that we launched this summer, which is called the Coaching Product Launch Blueprint. If you have no clue, if you're completely clueless and you're not even sure if you have an idea for a coaching product, we bring you from zero to brainstorming who you are, where you've been your entire life, all the way up to what are some viable products. The things that Penny was talking about that she's done in doing her homework on her niche and everything else. We basically give you the steps week by week on how do you clarify, brainstorm from zero all the way up to launching your coaching practice or launching any kind of a coaching product, whether it's an online course, an online program, a webinar, a group coaching program that's locally, because this actually works for traditional as well as virtual coaches, but that's included inside of Jumpstart. Jumpstart's $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. This program, we could easily charge $10,000 for it. I mean, like easily, because most people are spending thousands of dollars just to get trained and certified as a coach, and they're not getting any kind of business help. Jumpstart also includes a Wednesday group call. So everybody who's a part of Jumpstart gets in on that call who wants to, and we go live and we'll give you feedback on anything that you're working on. You don't have to do this thing alone. I know what that feels like. You don't have to do this alone. You can do it with people who are celebrating with you. We start every call celebrating wins, and we give feedback on anything that anybody is having a challenge with. And if you launch a new website, we'll give you feedback on that. If you worked with a client and you were able to record it and you wanted some feedback on how that session goes, we give you feedback on that. Again, what we did is that we take every aspiring coach's excuses out of the way. We've made this affordable. We've made the how-tos easy for you to do. We've made it accessible 24/7, and we have live support between our group calls and connections and also our online community, which is a group of phenomenal, brilliant people who are also doing the same thing. They're starting from whatever their background was, and typically having a previous career or a couple of them and trying to figure out how they leverage it to become coaches. Brilliant people who are always rallying around one another and keeping you accountable and keeping you encouraged. You can click the link inside of this video and you can get enrolled. And you know what? Tomorrow night, it would be great to see you for our training in the Life Coach Certification course. I want to thank Penny again because she's been such a giver to our community for the last couple of years, and she's absolutely amazing. And I know she would welcome any of your emails. Her website is ystudent.com, or you can just Google Penny Kostaras, Kostaras. But she would welcome any kind of feedback that you would give her. And I'm sure that she would respond to you if you did, and she would appreciate it. So I appreciate her time and how she's always been such a gift to our community. Listen, the link is inside the description. Click that link, get enrolled. We'd love to see you tomorrow for training, or see you Wednesday for our group coaching call. But listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. I hope tonight was really encouraging and inspires you for 2023. You can absolutely do this, and you don't have to do it alone. We'll walk alongside you. We'll take you by the hand. Hey, have a great rest of your week and take care.